Welcome to the Muscle Building Mastery Podcast, where guys that want to build muscle come to learn how to do it properly. We understand that there's more to building muscle than mindlessly throwing weights around and chugging mass gainer shakes. We're not interested in quick fixes or anabolic assistance. We're interested in mastering the art, science and skill set required to stack on real muscle and strength. My name's Andy Clements, and for the last 12 years I've devoted my life to figuring out how guys like us who don't have amazing genetics, don't have 5 hours a day to spend in the gym, and don't want to take steroids as a shortcut can build insane amounts of muscle and strength in weeks and months, not years and decades. This podcast is the result of all the lessons I've learned along the way, and it will give you the blueprint to building more muscle in less time. To get you started, head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net to download your free 6-week workout plan. Hey, what's going on everybody? This is Andy. Welcome back to another episode of the Muscle Building Mastery Podcast. In this episode, we're going to continue our little mini-series on spotlights of specific muscles and targeting a specific muscle in your body in order to grow it if you've got some sort of weak area. Last time we talked a little bit about biceps and we covered sort of 5 points on how to grow your biceps. We're going to cover a similar kind of 5 points today. We're going to apply it specifically to chest or the pecs, the muscles on the front of your torso. So everybody wants to grow bigger pecs, right? Everybody wants to build their chest. Everybody wants to know how the best way is to grow your chest, what the best workout plan is, blah, blah, blah. This podcast hopefully will dispel some of the myths, and it will give you some actual, real, valuable, useful cues to go in the gym and start training more intelligently to grow your chest, if that makes sense. So, it's so common with chest training to train poorly. And when I first started, I used to smash my chest as often as I could. I just thought more, and we're going to talk about frequency later, but this was the only thing I knew how to do really, was just do more. So I was just throwing more and more and more stuff at my chest, hoping that it would grow, but not paying any attention to the kind of stuff I was doing, the kind of exercise I was doing, the way I was doing the exercises, how much weight I was lifting. I was just trying to throw more stuff at my chest, and it just didn't work, I ended up with shoulder injuries, which plagued me for the next 4 or 5 years, which really sort of stunted my physique development and my ability to grow muscle and look and feel and move better. So it was tough because I wanted to grow my chest and I was trying my best, but I just didn't know how. And when I started to learn more about biomechanics, that's when I started to be able to grow my chest more, because I was able to train more intelligently. I was able to train more accurately, and that's what I hopefully will lay out for you in this episode. So there's a few points that I want to cover on chest, and the first one is execution. So I've alluded to a little bit of the way you do movements there. So execution, like I said in the bicep episode, execution means the way that you perform a movement. It's kind of like a fancy word for your technique. But the way I think about the word execution is it's not just technique or form, it's going internal as opposed to going external, right? It's not just throwing weights around, it's thinking about what the muscle does, right? So when we think about execution, we have to, as a byproduct of that, think about the function that the muscle you're trying to train performs. So what I mean by that is, why is that muscle there? What function does that, what purpose does that muscle serve on your body? So last time on the podcast, when we talked about biceps, we talked about the fact that the bicep is there to perform the function of flexing the elbow joint, right? It brings the forearm up to the bicep, whereas the muscles of the pecs, the pectorals, the chest, the function of them is to help our upper arm, or the humerus bone, to come across the body, right? So if you pull your bicep to touch your chest right now, the reason that you can do that, and you sort of grab your opposite shoulder with your opposite hand, then the reason you can do that is because your pec is allowing you to pull the upper arm across the body. Now that's called horizontal adduction. That's a fancy word, but essentially all it means is adducting or bringing it across your arm in a horizontal plane, like a horizontal plane. I don't know how else to explain horizontal. So essentially, that's the function of the pecs. Now, knowing that's the function of the pecs opens a door to be able to train more intelligently straight away, right? Because if we think about the most common chest exercises, there's stuff like presses, like bench presses, dumbbell presses, machine presses, even flies, anything like that, right? We all know the most common exercises for chest and the ones that work. But if we know the function of the chest is to pull the upper arm inwards across the body, then that completely changes the way that we train the chest, right? Because the way most people train the chest, and the way I trained the chest for a lot of years, which brought me to experience more injuries than muscle, was I used to just push the weights up, and I used to focus on just throwing weights up above my head. I was lying down on a bench and I used to just drive weights up towards the ceiling. And what that does is that focus on pushing upwards, that pulls the shoulders out of where they're supposed to be. It pulls the shoulder blades out of that locked back and down position, and it means that you're ending up driving your shoulders forwards and using the muscles of the front delts and the triceps more than you're actually using the pecs, right? So that's from just an efficiency standpoint, is you're not actually using your pecs when you're pressing, you're using your front delts, and any tension that the pec is getting is being stolen by the front delts and by the triceps, because the triceps extend the elbow, the front delts push the shoulders out of place. So that's the reason that you need to be conscious and aware of the function of the pecs when you're doing the exercise. So that completely changes the way that we do the exercise. When we do the exercise now and we're mindful of the function of the pecs to push the upper arm inwards, when we do that exercise now, then we can start locking our shoulders back and down and then driving the upper arms inwards as we press. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing a dumbbell press or a machine press or a barbell press or a push-up or whatever it is, a chest dip, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what kind of movement you're doing. The movement is the same. And if you visualize that you're doing the movement without any forearms, so you've just kind of got, your arms are cut off at the elbow, every chest movement looks the same. Literally every chest movement looks the same. From above the elbow, you're pushing the upper arm inwards. That's all you're doing. And if you start to think about chest movements like that, things start to change for you with your chest development. Trust me, I've been through it, and I've coached hundreds of guys, maybe even thousands of guys through this exact process with their chest. And the difference in feeling is instant, right? It was literally just the other day, Monday, I saw a guy in the gym, a friend of mine has got a 19-year-old, I think he is, son, who's just starting with the gym, and he's done okay on his own, to be fair. Like, he doesn't look bad for a 19-year-old kid, but he's really struggling. He's just kind of figuring it all out on his own, maybe some YouTube videos, maybe some podcasts like this, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. So this friend of mine obviously knows that this is what I do for a living. I've been doing it for a very long time, and I know what I'm doing. So she said, look, we just help him out. So I took him around the gym, I helped him out, and instantly on things like a dumbbell press. So the first thing I said, I'll take you through an upper body workout. So just a general upper body workout. And I took him through a dumbbell press for the first thing we did for chest. And literally within one rep, and I'm not talking shit here, but within one rep, right? He literally stopped the exercise and he was like, I've never felt my chest light up like that ever. Right, and he's been training, he's only 19 years old, but he's been training maybe a year or two already, right, since he was 16, 17 years old. And he felt his chest light up more within one rep than he did in 2 years. Like, let that sink in for a minute. This is the importance of training in accordance to your muscles' function. It's not just some nerdy, abstract BS that I'm trying to ram down your throat. I'm saying it because it directly translates to more muscle growth. So that's how important it is. So if you're training your chest, lock your shoulders back and down, right? Pull as you pull the, let's say if it's a dumbbell press or a barbell press, whatever it is, as you pull the bar or the dumbbells or whatever down towards your chest, pull your elbows outwards. The goal is to start to feel your pecs lengthen as you get to the bottom of the rep, okay? When you feel the pecs lengthen, then you'll pause, and then you'll drive inwards, not upwards. And then if you drive inwards and you do that properly, you'll start to feel the pecs contract, right? And if you can feel the pecs lengthen on the way down and the pecs contract on the way up versus throwing the weights around and not feeling fuck all, then you're on your way. Trust me, man, you're on your way to building some decent muscle and some decent strength through that muscle as well. So that's the general first point of execution. Now, the second point I want to make on chest training and any sort of weak body part in general is frequency. Now, the pecs in particular are a medium kind of sized muscle. Now, that's a bit of a cop out answer, I know that, but they kind of are a medium sized muscle. They're not as small as muscles like, say, the side delts or the rear delts or the front delts or the biceps or the triceps or the calves, right? They're not as easy to recover as those muscles, but at the same time, they're not as big as like muscles on the back or muscles on the quads or the glutes or these big, thick sheaves of muscle that take a lot longer to recover. So they can kind of fall in the grey area, the pecs. So I would say either 2 or 3 times a week would be where you want to be if you want to grow your pecs and you're serious about pushing the pecs as a weak body part. If your recovery's on point and you're not smashing loads of volume, so you're not doing just a chest day, every 2 days, then you can probably train your pecs 3 times a week. You could probably do like 2 or 3 exercises on your pecs 3 times a week. If you've got good recovery, if you're sleeping well and all that stuff, and your stress management's good and all the rest of the stuff that goes into it. But if your recovery isn't so good, or if you're wanting to train your chest more intensely with more volume over the course of a couple of workouts, then I would stick to 1 or 2 workouts a week with the chest. But keep in mind that the more frequency you can get in with pec training, with any training of any muscle, the quicker you can get back in the gym, you can recover from the workout, get back in and train it again, the quicker you're going to grow. Okay, so if you can recover from training your pecs 3 times a week, that's amazing, right? But don't just start smashing your chest into the ground, not recovering, being sore as hell, and then trying to go and do it again, because that's going to be counterproductive. So that's frequency. Number 3 is a strength curve. So a fully contracted, let me just quickly explain what the strength curve is before I go into this. So in the bicep episode, we talked a little bit about strength curves. Strength curves essentially are kind of like training where you're weak, right? So training where you're weak means that in a fully lengthened or fully stretched position, you're much weaker than you are in kind of a mid-range, right? And in a fully contracted position, you're also much weaker than you are in a mid-range, right? So for the pecs, a fully lengthened position would be when your shoulder is fully kind of externally rotated, so your shoulder's opened up, if that makes sense, and your arm is kind of right sort of at the bottom of a dumbbell press, for example, or a barbell press, somewhere where you can feel a big stretch across your chest. That's when you're starting to reach a fully lengthened position, right? Now, the fully lengthened position is where you're weak, and it's always easier to grow by working where you're weak than it is just by staying where you're strong. So by not reaching those fully lengthened positions, you're literally cheating yourself out of muscle growth because you're not achieving working where you're weak, basically, right? And a lot of people do that. A lot of people don't go all the way down on a bench press or all the way down on a dumbbell press or anything like that, because then they can't lift as much weight, basically, and they don't want to feel like they're weak. But literally, if you work where you're weak and you start to build strength in the areas where you're weak, your opportunity to grow goes up like tenfold and more, right? So that's an area you want to focus on, like right at the bottom. Spend some time right at the bottom of your press and feel that lengthened area before you push out of it. Like 1 or 2 seconds at the bottom of each rep of a press, just feeling that lengthened stretch across your pec muscles, and making sure that you're spending some time in that weak area. And likewise, the fully contracted position is also a weak area for the chest. So that's going to be an area that on some exercises with the chest you can't actually reach, because a fully contracted position for the chest means that you're going to push your upper arm right across your body, right? And that's an area that you might be able to get to easier with something like a dumbbell press, like the top position of a dumbbell press. If you push, not necessarily the dumbbells together, but if you push your upper arms inwards together, then you're going to contract your pecs a lot harder than you are on, say, a barbell press, like a bench press, because your hands are kind of fixed at just wider than shoulder width, so you can't actually push your elbows right across your body because your hands are in a fixed position. So there's nothing wrong with a bench press, but and it's a good exercise to build muscle. But a dumbbell press, you can get into a much more fully contracted position. And you can as well on things like a pec fly, a cable fly, a pec deck. Those kinds of things are all easier to reach a fully contracted position and a fully lengthened position as well. So the fourth thing that we want to talk about here with pecs is load. So progression on weights for any muscle. And progressive overload, which I've talked about many times on the podcast and on my YouTube channel, is really, really important. But for chest, it really is vital, because if you're not progressing your big compound movements for chest, you're not going to grow your chest. It's as simple as that. So if the big compound movements, like your bench presses, like your incline presses, like your dumbbell presses, like your Smith presses, whatever press you're choosing to put in, if you're not progressing that, you're not going to grow your chest. It's quite as simple as that, right? Over time, like a year, if you take a long-term view of this, if you say a year from now, you don't put any weight on your, bench press or dumbbell press, whatever, I would be surprised to see your chest looking any different whatsoever, right? It's not that weight is everything, and like we've gone through, we need to keep in mind execution, you need to keep in mind frequency and strength curve and all the other stuff, but load is still an important part, and success leaves clues. And if you look at the guys with the biggest chests, they're not pressing the big dumbbells, they're pressing the big boy weights, right? Now, it's all relative. You don't need to worry about pressing 50, 60, 70 kilo dumbbells, whatever it is. You don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about 150, 200 kg benches. You don't need to worry about anything like that, but you do need to worry about progressing where you are now. So if where you are now is pressing 20 kilo dumbbells, that's fine. But next week, let's see if you can get the 22s up. Yeah, and it's as simple as that. Or if you're just doing 20 kilo dumbbells for 5 now, let's see if we can get 6 or 7 or 8 next week. So just push and just make sure that you progress. And if you don't know, you can't remember what weights you're lifting, start writing them down. Like, I've done so many podcasts on progressive overload, and it's not specific to chest, it's for every muscle across the board, but you ain't going to grow your chest if you're not using progressive overload. It's as simple as that. So load and progress the load. Now, there's one last tip, number 5, that I'm going to give you specifically for chest training that doesn't apply to any other muscle. And it's kind of a little hack that I learned from Ben Pekulski, an IFBB pro bodybuilder, and a dude that I used to learn from back when I was first starting out, on increasing the sort of engagement or the way that you feel your chest on fixed equipment. Now, when I say fixed equipment, I mean things like bars or machines or even a push-up, right? Things where your hands are fixed, like I was saying earlier, not a dumbbell, like not something where if you were to push your hand, the equipment would move as well, right? So on fixed equipment, try this the next time you do a barbell bench press or a Smith machine press or even a push-up, right? Try this. Set your hands where you would normally set your hands, just wider than shoulder width, and then without physically moving them, without sliding them across the bar, push them inwards as you press throughout the entire movement, even on the way down and on the way up. So as you press, obviously, like we talked about earlier with the execution part, you're going to be pushing your upper arm across the body, but extend that to your hands as well and try and squeeze the bar inwards. And that's what Ben Pekulski used to call inward intention, right? Now, by doing that, you fire up all of the muscles on the inside of that axis, which means your pecs, right? Because your pecs are on the inside of the axis of your arm, right? So, or the shoulder. So, by driving the hands inwards, you're cueing everything in your brain and your body to push inwards, which fires up the pecs so much more than if you were just just pushing up and down. So that's a big cue, a very, very simple and applicable cue that you can take to the gym next time you train chest, and drive your hands inwards and see how much more that lights up your pecs. I mean, you can even do it now if you're sat at a desk or something, or I don't know. I'm hesitant to say driving a car because it's kind of dangerous. But if you've got both hands on the steering wheel and you're not going to drive the car off the road, see if you can squeeze your hands inwards and just see what that does to your pecs, right? Because it just takes like half a second and you should be able to feel your pecs kind of fire up. Now imagine what what that would do if you could master that technique under a decent amount of weight on a bench press or on a dumbbell press or on a push-up or whatever it is. Imagine what you could do if you start progressing your strength using that technique. You would grow your chest, like unequivocally you would grow your chest. So that's my tip that I'm going to leave you with for this episode 54 of Muscle Building Mastery Podcast. We're going to talk about another muscle next time on episode 55. But yeah, hopefully that helped, and that helped give you some ideas for going in and training your chest properly and effectively and efficiently to actually grow muscle on your chest. So I hope that was useful. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because there's more content going on there. Not just about muscle building, but about fat loss and about fitness and about health and about all the different stuff that goes into it. Drop me a review on this podcast if you enjoy it, or if you don't enjoy it. If you've got any questions or anything like that, drop me a review, and I'd really, really appreciate that. That's how we reach more people and let them know about this information that's actually useful for muscle building. And if you want some more information on how to build muscle effectively without wasting your time, check out Training Mastery. Training Mastery is my online video course for beginners. And basically what the thought process was when I built Training Mastery, it was imagining I had a beginner in front of me that said, Andy, I want to build muscle, but I've no idea where to start. So I take somebody from being the beginner level to all the way through to being an advanced training master or an athlete who knows everything they need to know about building muscle from the ground up. So if that sounds like something that would be useful for you, go to musclebuildingmastery.net/training mastery, and you can check out the Training Mastery video course there and see what you think. I hope that's useful for you guys, and I will speak to you next time on the Muscle Building Mastery podcast. Bye. If you're ready to stop wasting time in the gym and start mastering the skill of muscle building, go check out www.musclebuildingmastery.net to download your free 6-week muscle building workout plan. I have specifically formulated this workout plan to take you through the 3 stages of mastering your body, layering on a more advanced training methodology each week as you progress. That means that regardless of where you are with your training right now, this plan will push you forward and help you stack on more muscle and strength in just 6 weeks. So head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net now to grab your free 6-week workout plan.